Salam sejahtera, anda sedang menyaksikan Niaga AWANI bersama saya Rozman. Seperti biasa, jam ini kami akan bawakan pelbagai rangkuman berita niaga ekonomi dari tempatan hinggalah ke peringkat antarabangsa. Dan bercakap mengenai laporan ini dulu, Indeks Pengurus Pembelian PMI Pembuatan SP Global ASEAN merosot untuk bulan kedua berturut-turut pada April 2025. Mencatatkan bacaan di bawah paras neutral sebanyak 50.0 buat kali pertama sejak Disember 2023. Ia merekodkan 48.7, menurun daripada 50.8 pada Mac, sekaligus menggambarkan pengeluaran ASEAN mengalami kemerosotan yang sederhana. Tetapi paling ketara dalam keadaan operasi sejak Ogos 2021. Menurut ahli ekonomi SP Global Market Intelligence, Mariam Baluch berkata, data PMI pada April menunjukkan gambaran membimbangkan bagi pengeluar barangan ASEAN apabila sektor tersebut kembali mencatatkan penyusutan buat kali pertama dalam tempoh 16 bulan. Tambahnya pengeluaran dan pesanan baharu mencatatkan penyusutan semula dengan aktiviti pembelian yang berkurangan dan mencatatkan kemerosotan dalam pemberhentian pekerjaan. Dengan itu, kita bersedia dan tala untuk bantu kita fahami mengenai perkara ini adalah Raja Hamzah Abidin, Raja Nong Chik, Board of Director TalentCorp. I want to say thank you very much, Raja, for joining me. Especially we can see manufacturing slowing down, and we want to take a look, dive deep into the impact towards chip production. As ASEAN's manufacturing momentum slows, can Malaysia realistically scale up innovation in advanced chip design, or will a weak industrial foundation undermine this high-tech ambition?
I think number one, the global growth environment has definitely been affected by what's happening because of the US. So if you look into sentiment at the moment, it is a bit on the tough side. However, from a capital scenario point of view, actually Malaysia is still abundant with capital, especially from private equity players and also private market players. Within the networks, I've heard of a few semiconductor funds being funded by some of our sovereigns and also foreign investors, which means that there will continuously be a steady flow of capital coming into chip design, in a certain extent at the periphery of chip production. So I still believe that the market is still very positive. And again, when times are tough, when people are investing a bit less outside Malaysia, I think we stand a good chance of being a hedge to the US, what's happening with the US-China trade war. If you look into Penang and Selangor, where they've tried to build IC design hubs, I still believe that there will be more demand for those type of scale businesses to come in, and there's also enough foreign interest I've been hearing of companies wanting to come in. But I believe in the short term, in the next 3 to 6 months, as any rational business person, they would probably just take a step back, pause and reassess. But I believe in the longer, medium and longer term, I think we'll still be in a very strong space for IC design and IC and production.
We can see the sentiment is quite on the low right now, but on the technical term, we can see a bit on the good side. But are the strict financial access requirements under the ARM collaboration, such as steady cash flow and audited accounts, unintentionally, we can say, sidelining the very starts of Malaysia's needs to drive semiconductor innovation?
Obviously, the ones that initially will benefit are the more established IC design houses. If you look into, I think after the announcement, Upstar's stock price went up. I think Skychip did an announcement as well. So as an sort of an incumbent or an existing player in the market, you probably will benefit. But I also believe that with what it's doing with ARM, I mean, maybe in the short term it still looks difficult, but I think more and more engineers who are able to start up their own shop, start their own IC design firm, will at least see a path to being able to leverage ARM's technology to do more. So what I'm saying is, I mean, if you look into the background of a lot of the local IC design houses, they were all ex-Intel design engineers, right? So Intel, Altera. So again, the talent pool is there. But what do we need to help them grow, right? Obviously, access to different types of IP is important. Secondly, capital is important as well. I put my hats off to the existing guys who've come up with minimal capital or venture capital type investments, and also minimal talent incentives. Until now, the capital situation is a lot better. So if you're an early stage company, you can either go to some of the government agencies, you can go to the fund of fund guys, you can go to private equity players, and there's one. And on the talent side now, I think there's a lot more programs focused on semiconductor related talent, both because there's a undersupply of them and also the increasing demand for semiconductor related talent. So again, I believe, compared to, let's say, a decade ago, I think the environment's a lot more fertile. It's just that as a country, we kind of have to go and grab those opportunities. Good companies, both locally and also globally, have to be competitive for them to succeed in this environment. I think what's key, what we've seen is China will probably be a bit less relevant to the US. So we would see some demand go elsewhere. And I think us as a neutral country would benefit for that.
With regional demand and production indicators in decline, Raja, is now the right time for Malaysia to double down on capital-intensive semiconductor investment, or should priorities shift towards stabilizing core manufacturing sectors first?
Again, I would say, semiconductor is a broader term of E&E, right? So E&E is still sort of one of the growth engines of the country as a whole. E&E, consumer demand, I think those are some of the underpinnings of growth in Malaysia. So if you look at the sentiment as a whole, I think consumer sentiment is a bit on the low side, given the volatility of the economy, the currency. But at the same time, we need longer-term drivers of growth. Manufacturing and higher value-added manufacturing will have to take up the slack, and this will be providing high-value jobs to the environment. I think we've spoken a lot about FDI, but also what is the right type of FDI coming in. I think about a month ago, I was hosting a bunch of guys on Foxconn, and again they were looking to build more in Malaysia and contribute more to Malaysia, strengthening their supply chain over here. They already have a related company in Penang. So again, I think that there are those kind of opportunities there to still grow. I think as an economy as a whole, in terms of this environment where things are a bit slow, I think you would see consumer spending slow down. So we need to find different ways to drive growth. And manufacturing, I think for us as a country, historically and now, will be an even more important part of the value chain ecosystem for our economy.
All right, that is a bigger context if you take a look at the semiconductors and the growth of ARM chips. I want to go to the access tokens. Are the limited 32 access token, which includes 25 for EFE, 7 for CSS, and then sufficient? Is it sufficient to genuinely kickstart a robust local chip design ecosystem, or will this initiative end up benefiting only a select few companies?
I would say initially, the ones that benefit will just be a select few. But I think the idea of it all, speaking to the different stakeholders, is it for it to gradually benefit a larger environment, and also I think on the startup side, incentivize some of the startups to go into this space, because licensing some of this technology is extremely expensive, right? So I think when the government de-risk part of it, I think it helps create a win-win scenario. But again, I think we go back to the point. I think there needs to be a conducive environment for risk-taking. We need more IC design houses to come up. I think even in the past 6 to 12 months of capital coming into the semiconductor space, I do see, I think, more companies, more startups in this space compared to before, and also much more foreign investors looking for deals in this space. So I think it's up to the entrepreneurs to look at what's being offered by both government and some of the private sector players like ARM and all that, and see how they can create a value chain. I believe it's still relevant, but again, without the right capital, without the right forward investments, and without the right talent, I don't think we're going to get very far.